Okay, so you're thinking about maybe trying out a service department in Hong Kong.
Huh. And you want to know what you're getting into.
Well, today we're going to do a deep dive on that very topic. We've got some good info here to work with.
Yeah, enough to make you an expert in like 20 minutes or so.
And our goal is for you to walk away from this really understanding the ins and outs.
Of service departments in Hong Kong, so you can make a good decision about whether it's right for your stay.
Exactly. Whether you're just there for a quick trip or planning to be there a little bit longer.
We're going to cover pretty much everything you need to know. What these apartments actually are, where you can find them.
The money stuff, of course. And then some really important things to think about when you're weighing your options.
So let's jump right in. What exactly are we talking about when we say service department in Hong Kong?
Okay, so the information we have basically defines them as fully furnished apartments that you can rent for, different lengths of time.
And a big part of what makes them appealing is that the rent includes all sorts of services, like you'd find in a hotel.
So you get the privacy and space of your own apartment.
But with the added convenience of things like housekeeping and maintenance already taken care of.
Yeah, it's a really interesting combination. So let's break down what that means in practice.
So basically, imagine this. You arrive in Hong Kong,
And you walk into your service department,
and everything's already set up for you.
the furniture, the kitchenware, even down to like the basic supplies,
And a lot of the time, those essential utilities.
like your electricity, water, internet.
That's all included in your monthly rent.
Plus, you'll usually have regular housekeeping services,
Hmm?
which honestly can be a real lifesaver in a busy city like Hong Kong.
It definitely takes a lot of the stress out of moving, especially if you're only there for a short while.
Exactly. And then when you compare it to like setting up a traditional apartment,
Furnishing it yourself, sorting out all the bills.
you can save a ton of time and hassle, especially if you're not planning to stay for a long time.
And there's also the flexibility of shorter leases, which is great if you're not ready to commit to a year or two.
Right. You might just be there for a few months for a project.
Or you're relocating and need a temporary base.
And in those cases, a service department can be way more cost effective than staying in a hotel for weeks or months on end.
Especially if you're new to Hong Kong or on a temporary work assignment.
Now, one of the things that's really helpful here is this comparison they give us between service departments and traditional rentals.
Yeah, it's like a side-by-side breakdown of the key differences.
It really highlights what sets them apart. So let's go through some of the main points.
Okay, so first up, lease terms.
With a service department, you get that flexibility we talked about.
Often month to month or maybe quarterly.
But traditional rentals in Hong Kong,
They usually lock you in for a year or two.
then there's the whole furnishing situation.
The service departments come fully furnished, ready to go.
You literally just bring your suitcase.
But with a traditional rental, you're starting from scratch,
Finding furniture, appliances, all that fun stuff.
which can be a huge undertaking and quite expensive too.
And then there are the utilities.
With a service department, they're usually bundled into the rent.
One less thing to worry about.
But a traditional rental, you'd be responsible for setting up and paying for all those utilities yourself.
Electricity, water, gas, internet, the whole 9 yards.
And then, of course, we have the services, housekeeping, maintenance.
In the service department, it's all included.
And someone else takes care of it.
But if you go the traditional rental route,
You're on your own,
finding cleaners, dealing with repairs.
which can be a bit of a headache.
And that brings us to the initial costs.
Yeah, that upfront chunk of money.
So typically with a service department,
You'll have a lower initial outlay, often just a security deposit.
but with a traditional rental, you're looking at a bigger hit to your bank account.
You'll usually have the deposit plus agent fees.
And then, of course, the cost of buying all the furniture and everything.
So there's definitely a lot to think about when you're weighing up service departments versus traditional rentals.
How long are you planning to stay?
How much do you value that convenience and flexibility?
Versus maybe having more control over your space and potentially lower costs in the long run.
It's all about finding the right balance for your needs.
Now, let's talk location, location, location,
It's everything they say.
especially in a city as diverse as Hong Kong.
Each neighborhood has its own distinct vibe and price point.
It's not just about finding a place to sleep. It's about finding a place that fits your lifestyle.
And your budget, of course.
Right. So let's highlight some of the popular areas for service departments based on the info we have here.
Okay, so on Hong Kong Island, you've got Central.
The financial heart of the city.
Lots of high-end service departments there.
Great for business travelers, easy access to offices, and all the luxury shopping you could ever want.
And you've got Wan Chai. It's a bit more lively, mix of businesses and entertainment.
Famous for its nightlife and super well connected to the rest of the city.
Causeway Bay is another popular spot, known for its shopping.
And it seems like you can find a good range of service departments there.
From budget-friendly to super luxurious,
And then across the harbor, in Kowloon, you have Sim Shat Tsui.
more of a tourist hub, amazing views of the harbor.
And again, lots of options for service departments.
Now, if you're looking for something a bit quieter, more residential,
The info we have highlights Sai Wan Ho on Hong Kong Island.
it's known for being more relaxed and potentially offering better value for money.
They even mentioned Lanson Place as a good example of what you can find there.
So as you can see, lots of variety.
But how do you decide what's right for you?
That's where these key factors come in. Things to consider when you're thinking about location.
So first off, proximity to work. This is especially important for business travelers.
Hong Kong's public transport is good.
But commutes can still eat up a lot of time.
So being close to your office or wherever you'll be working.
Can make a huge difference to your daily life.
Then there's your lifestyle. Do you strive in a bustling environment?
Or do you prefer peace and quiet?
This is where thinking about the character of different neighborhoods comes in.
Do you want to be in the thick of it all?
Or tucked away somewhere a little more tranquil.
And then there's budget central and mid-levels tend to be pricier.
There's places like Sai Ying Pun or Kennedy Town.
Might offer a bit more bang for your buck.
And don't forget about those everyday conveniences.
Are there good restaurants and shops nearby?
Is there a park where you can relax?
These things can really impact your quality of life.
It's also worth considering transport links. How easy is it to get around from that location?
Hong Kong has an amazing public transport system.
The MTR is super efficient.
So being close to an MTR station is a huge plus.
You can get almost anywhere quickly and easily.
Buses are also an option,
They cover pretty much the entire city.
but they can get quite crowded during rush hour.
And then you have the iconic trams on Hong Kong Island.
Charming for sure,
Definitely.
but not exactly known for their speed.
And taxis are readily available,
But those fares can add up quickly.
especially during peak hours or if you're going a longer distance.
Now, there's some really good advice here, and I think it's worth emphasizing.
Go and explore the areas you're interested in.
If you can actually go there in person,
Walk around, get a feel for the vibe.
see if you can picture yourself living there.
Pay attention to the little things.
Noise levels, traffic.
You know the things that can make or break your experience.
Because seeing a listing online is one thing.
But actually being there is a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so you've got a sense of the different areas. Now let's talk about the money side of things.
Budgeting. It's essential.
Especially in a city like Hong Kong.
Rent can be a big chunk of your expenses.
And the info we have here highlights that prices can vary a lot.
Depending on the location, size of the apartment, amenities, all that good stuff.
To give you a rough idea,
A studio apartment in a central location could set you back anywhere from 20,000 to 40,000 Hong Kong dollars per month.
for a one-bedroom, you're probably looking at 30,000 to 50,000.
And larger apartments can easily exceed 60,000.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a pricey city. But keep in mind, those are just averages.
Actual prices can fluctuate.
It's always best to check current listings and, do your research.
And one important thing to remember,
Hong Kong is a very expensive city to live in.
that's not changing anytime soon.
But the good news is,
With service apartments, a lot of things are usually included in the rent.
so you're not constantly getting hit with extra bills.
The info here lists some of the things you can typically expect.
Utilities like electricity, water, gas.
Internet access, usually high speed,
Regular housekeeping.
which is amazing.
And often you'll have access to bathing facilities.
Like a gym, swimming pool,
Mhm.
maybe even a business center.
Some service departments might even throw in extras like cable TV, local phone calls.
Some even include breakfast.
Pretty sweet deal, right?
But here's the thing, you always want to check the rental agreement
Make sure you understand exactly what's included.
so you don't get any nasty surprises down the line.
They actually highlight Habit Hong Kong as a good example,
They offer furnished apartments with dedicated work-from-home setups.
which might justify the cost for some people.
Now, of course, it's not always a perfect, all-inclusive picture.
There can be hidden costs.
Things you need to factor into your budget.
So, for example, the security deposit.
Usually 1 or 2 months rent,
You might have charges for additional services,
extra housekeeping laundry,
maybe early departure fees if you need to leave before the end of your lease.
and even guest fees if you have people staying over.
And then there's the question of agent fees.
If you're using a real estate agent to help you find a place.
They typically charge a commission of 1 month's rent.
So you need to factor that into your budget.
The key takeaway here is to do your research.
Ask all the right questions
Make sure you're clear on what's included and what's not.
before you sign anything.
Don't be afraid to negotiate
And always read the fine print.
carefully.
Okay, so let's say you've decided a service department is the way to go.
How do you actually find one?
Well, the info we have here lays out the process pretty clearly,
It all starts online.
like most things these days.
So you can start with a good old Google search.
Be specific with your search terms,
Include the neighborhood you're interested in.
the type of apartment.
Your budget.
Then there are dedicated property websites,
Many of them have filters, so you can really narrow down your search.
location, price, size, amenities.
You can get pretty specific.
And don't forget about social media.
Lots of people post about apartments for rent in groups and forums.
And sometimes you can even find good deals that way.
And if you're already in Hong Kong,
Or planning a scouting trip,
just walking around the neighborhoods you like,
keep an eye out for rent signs.
you might stumble across a hidden gem.
Now, if you're new to Hong Kong or just short on time,
Using a real estate agent can be a lifesaver.
they know the market inside and out.
They can help you find options that match your needs and your budget.
And they can handle all the negotiations and paperwork.
But remember, they do charge a commission.
Usually 1 month's rent.
So it's an added cost.
But for some people, it's worth it for the time and stress it saves.
And when you're working with an agent, make sure they're licensed.
That's important.
A good agent will take the time to understand what you're looking for
Arrange viewings.
and help you get the best possible deal.
Now, in addition to traditional real estate agents,
There are also online platforms that specialize in rental properties in Hong Kong.
the info here mentions a few popular ones.
Spacious, Asia Expat, GoHomeCallLiving.com.
These sites let you filter your search,
And often you can contact the landlord or agent directly.
which can be really convenient.
But a word of caution.
Always do your research on any platform you use.
Be wary of listings that seem too good to be true.
And never send any money without seeing the property in person.
Or having someone you trust check it out for you.
Okay, so you found a place you like.
You're ready to move in.
Not so fast.
There's one more crucial step.
Understanding the rental agreement.
This is where things can get tricky.
So let's break it down.
In Hong Kong, standard residential leases,
They're usually for 2 years.
which can be a long commitment.
But with service departments, you often have more flexibility.
Shorter lease terms.
Maybe even month to month.
Now, most standard leases will include a break clause,
This allows either the landlord or the tenant to end the lease early
usually after the first year,
by giving a certain amount of notice.
typically 2 or 3 months.
But with service departments,
You might find leases as short as 1 month.
with the option to extend.
It really varies.
So the key takeaway here is
Read the fine print.
carefully
Make sure you understand your rights and responsibilities.
before you sign anything.
Now let's talk money again.
Specifically, security deposits and fees.
So most service departments will require a security deposit.
Usually 2 months rent.
Plus, you'll usually have to pay the first month's rent up front.
So that's a significant initial outlay,
Make sure you ask about any other potential fees that might apply.
like cleaning fees, administrative fees,
And again, double check whether government taxes are included in the rent.
because sometimes they're not,
It's interesting to note that some service department providers
like Habit Hong Kong, for example,
are starting to offer $0 security deposit options.
which can really help to reduce those upfront costs. Now, that break clause we mentioned earlier,
It's definitely something to pay close attention to.
it allows you to terminate the lease early,
If you need to.
but you have to give the required notice.
Usually 2 or 3 months.
And it's important to check if there are any conditions attached to using the break clause.
Like specific dates or penalties.
The info we have actually suggests trying to negotiate the terms of the break clause
Before you sign the agreement.
so you're clear on what happens if you need to leave early.
And this might seem obvious.
But it's worth repeating.
Get everything in writing.
Make sure all the terms are clearly documented.
And if you have any doubts at all,
Don't hesitate to consult a lawyer.
it's better to be safe than sorry.
Now, there's one final point here that's really important.
It's about the risk of eviction.
You could actually be evicted.
If the landlord hasn't gotten permission from their mortgage provider
The mortgagee.
to rent out the property,
So it's worth doing a little due diligence
make sure everything's above board.
before you move in.
Okay, now let's move on to the fun part.
What makes service apartments so appealing?
All those amazing amenities and services.
It's like having a hotel and an apartment all rolled into one.
The goal is really to create that home away from home feeling.
but with all the convenience of a hotel stay.
So what can you typically expect?
Well, fully equipped kitchens are pretty standard.
Which is great if you enjoy cooking.
And want to save money on eating out all the time.
In-apartment laundry facilities are also a huge plus.
No more trekking to the laundromat.
And high-speed internet is pretty much a given these days.
Essential for both work and play.
Many serviced apartments will also offer access to on-site gyms, swimming pools, business centers.
It's like having all the perks of a hotel right there in your building.
I remember when I was apartment hunting in Hong Kong.
The gym in my building was a lifesaver.
It helped me stay sane during that whole stressful process.
Now, one of the biggest advantages of serviced apartments.
It's got to be the housekeeping and maintenance services.
Imagine not having to clean your apartment every week.
Bliss.
And if something breaks,
You just report it and someone comes to fix it,
you don't have to deal with finding a handyman yourself,
which can be a real hassle.
especially in a new city.
It's just one less thing to worry about.
So you can focus on enjoying your time in Hong Kong?
Now, while it's not always a given,
Some serviced apartment buildings also try to foster a sense of community,
they might organize social events.
have communal spaces where residents can mingle,
Some even have online forums or groups.
where residents can connect,
So if you're looking for a place where you can meet people,
especially if you're new to the city,
it's definitely worth asking about the community aspect.
because that can make a big difference to your overall experience.
So who are serviced apartments ideal for?
But they can work really well for a range of people.
For shorter trips,
A week, a month.
they offer a ready-made solution.
No need to set anything up.
Everything's there waiting for you.
Just arrive, unpack, and relax.
For longer stays,
Several months to a year
they can be a great temporary base.
while you're getting settled in Hong Kong,
Exploring different neighborhoods.
looking for more permanent housing.
And that flexibility with lease terms is a huge advantage.
Now, they're particularly well suited for business travelers.
You've got reliable internet access,
Often a dedicated workspace.
more space, and a more home-like environment compared to a hotel room.
And of course, all those convenient services.
Housekeeping, laundry.
It just makes life easier.
Especially when you're focused on work.
And if your project gets extended,
You can usually extend your stay without any hassle.
now for expats who are relocating to Hong Kong,
Serviced apartments can be a really smart first step
they provide a temporary haven,
while you're figuring things out.
exploring different areas.
Getting a feel for the city,
But there are some crucial things to consider.
especially the cost.
They can be pricier than traditional rentals for longer stays.
So you need to weigh that convenience against the cost.
Location is also super important.
Think about proximity to work transport amenities,
And then there are those lease terms,
minimum stay requirements,
break clause conditions.
early departure policies.
All those details can really impact your experience
So it's important to read everything carefully.
before you commit.
At the end of the day,
Serviced apartments offer this really unique blend of hotel-like amenities,
and the comfort and privacy of your own home.
which makes them a popular choice.
For both short-term visitors,
And those who are planning a longer stay.
but as with any decision,
It all comes down to carefully considering your individual needs.
and of course your budget.
So to wrap things up,
We've covered a lot of ground today,
we've defined what serviced apartments are,
explored their benefits,
compared them to traditional rentals,
talked about the importance of location,
looked at budgeting considerations,
walked through the rental process,
examined those key elements of rental agreements.
and considered who they're best suited for.
And one of the key takeaways here,
Is that navigating the world of serviced apartments in Hong Kong?
it requires doing your homework.
Especially given the city's high rents and limited space.
You really need to understand the costs involved
The nuances of different locations.
and exactly what's included in the rent.
Now, there are services out there
Like Habit, for example,
that can help to simplify the process
offer more flexible stay options.
and handle some of those logistical details.
But ultimately, the choice is yours.
So here's a final thought for you.
Something to ponder.
If you were to choose a serviced apartment in Hong Kong,
What would be your top 3 non-negotiables?
the things you absolutely wouldn't compromise on,
And how would those priorities shape your search?
and ultimately your experience of living in this incredible city.
It's a question worth thinking about.
Because the right choice can make all the difference.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive
We'll see you next time.
on The Deep Dive.
Bye for now.